magazine about the 1950s, and a guy interviewed me about this city and heard about it. To show you how important it is that we keep our history, I cut this out of the book, and it says, era remembered as a time of integration. Well, as you see, I scratched through it. So it wasn't integration in Kansas, 52, and I put segregation. He also really put in here May. He put it here in October. This happened in May. So someone, quote, doing their research, they'll go back and say, he just lied, because he was overseas in May. So it's another reason why Carl G. Woodson, and you have to write some of your own history, because it can be, this book was called 50s in Wyandotte County. It can be changed. In 1958, Martin Luther King Jr. came to Kansas City. I have these, I carry this when I make this speech, because people say, Dad, he's standing up there just lying, I carry this because this is true. This is 1958. Martin Luther King came to Kansas. He spoke at Sumner High School. Let me just read the programs. Y'all may be a little bit too young to remember some of the things. Let me read the program to you. Lift every voice and sing by the congregation. Invocation by Reverend S.J. Mashaw, was the pastor of St. Peter's CME Church. Sung by the Young Adult Choir of 8th Street Baptist. Welcome by the Mayor, Paul F. Mitchell. Sung by First AME Choir. Offering by Reverend R.C. I remember to say that real loud. Offering by Reverend R.C. Moore, who was the pastor of Mason Memorial United Methodist Church. Solo by Mr. John Drew. Presentation by Mr. Solomon Case, and then addressed by Martin Luther King. And a benediction by Reverend T.L. Ples from the Church of God in Christ. Does that sound strange? That program sounds strange to anybody? If it sounds strange to you, raise your hand. Keep in mind, Martin Luther King was a Baptist preacher. You ever know Baptist preachers? We'll get into that later on. Sit-ins began in Oklahoma City, then one down in Wichita. These occurred before Greensboro, North Carolina, where you saw the students sitting on the lunch counter. They just didn't get any publicity. In Kansas City, Missouri, I was living in Pittsburgh, Kansas. I was going to school down there. And Kansas City, Missouri, back then, they had started demonstrating in Kansas City, Missouri. And I would get a call, and some kind of knows and saw blacks in Kansas, Missouri, picketing downtown and saying, no, y'all got to cut this stuff. And basically, it was people from Kansas City, Kansas, who was leading it. Two pastors in particular. They were practically leading things in Kansas, Missouri. And I said, well, when I get home in Kansas City, Kansas, we're going to get it, it's going to be going on. But I didn't really understand why everything was quiet and still over here. Still don't understand why we live that way. Then, NAACP sent out a request that because of what happened to the young people sitting in the Woolworth in Greensboro, North Carolina, they asked to boycott of all Woolworth stores and have a demonstration in front of Woolworth stores all over the country. Kansas City, Kansas, this says, no boycott of Kansas City, Kansas stores. Not only boycott, but commendation. Kansas City, Kansas. Well, the mayor of Kansas City, Kansas said, there will be no demonstration over here. I have a letter from President NAACP in my desk drawer. Said that nothing would happen over here, but NAACP would not get involved. Well, some people began, or two or three began to say, we called him, and he said, well, I'm not going to do that. Matter of fact, he said he was a pastor of a Baptist church. I'm not going to call his name. But he said, I'm a freelance photographer. I'll be out on the plaza taking pictures of people in Kansas, Missouri who are demonstrating in Missouri, on the plaza, and also Kansas City, Missouri. Well, we in Kansas City, Kansas became the laughing stock of America. Black folks. We became the laughing stock because we were the only chapter of our size in America to sit on our hands. But this prompted some action by from some of the younger persons said, no, we're not going to be the laughing stock. We had some guys in Topeka, Sam Jackson, and part of the Scots, those guys who were involved in Wichita and Chester Lewis, and they came and I said, what's wrong with you all down here? And that prompted some action, and so the stuff started going. I had been going to NAACP meeting, and there was a group there led by a man by the name of Carly Randolph Sr. and Leela Shanks. Now, the names that you'll hear today, you'll never hear anyplace else. Nobody ever heard these people. And I always point out, you be the leader. But they were at the meetings and they were all just kind of pushed aside. But then some of the younger people came and got involved. And actually took over the NAACP. Matter of fact, when they had to vote for president, there were over 3,000 people that voted in the NAACP election. Ed Tillman became president of the NAACP. Then there was a sit-in at D'Angelo's restaurant. Here's an article that says, police eject Negroes. There were 5 people to sit-ins, young people. Eugene Kelly, who just passed about 6 months ago, lived in California. There's a picture in the paper. I'm glad to hear. I'm glad to get because I cut it out. My sister, Frances Owens, Gwendolyn David Strickland, Carmen Turner Parks, and a person from Kansas, Missouri, named Gloria Newton. Packing House Workers Union was having a meeting, and so they encouraged these young people. We didn't know anything about it. My dad didn't. We nobody knew anything about it. All of a sudden, it hit the news, and my dad, somebody in my house said, they've arrested your daughter. And no, my dad was about 6'1", but messed with his kids, he had problems, so all he could have was a pocket knife. And he headed uptown, and so they let him go. They didn't arrest him. Well, they didn't book him, I'll put it that way. The picketing started in front of D'Angelo's. Here are pictures. Basically, it was basically the same people, the Northwest District Citizens Association, who did the vast majority of the pickets. Well, I worked for what I call my second father, a man who, outside of my family, influenced me more than anybody else. A man by the name of H.W. Sewing, who would have been her husband's uncle. Quite a man. There's a whole, he is Black history. With D'Angelo, they said, well, you're only required to be in the office 4 hours a day. I have to be in the office 4 hours a day, and I have to go out and sell. I have a certain quota I have to make. Said, you got some freedom, and so you got to be in charge of the office. Got to schedule the pickets. So the signs were kept at an attorney's office by the name of A.B. Howard, and I.F. Bradley, who was around the corner of 5th and Minnesota, upstairs. So when the people come get their signs, and if they didn't get them, there was a lady by the name of Gladys Brown. She'd call and said, Chester, nobody showed up. Only one person showed up and said, you got to find somebody else. So I either had to find somebody or go up there and be the picket at that time. The Board of Education, go to this meeting, you hear the Leela Shanks and Carl Randolph and Wallace Downs and Ella Mae Jackson, these people begging for something to be done, begging for the NAACP to take over the school case. Then an organization, they started the Labor Ministry Committee after they booted basically all of the, I shouldn't say old people, but they said it was the Young Turks against the older people. Only 2 of the old group was left. One was a minister, and I'm not going to call his name, because many people are going to call his name. The other was a man by the name of Captain John Smith, who had a trucking business. Parson White was originally appointed, but he took a job in Topeka, and I was appointed chair of the Labor and Industry Committee. The committee consists of Carl Randolph Sr., Leela Shanks, Beatrice Locke, Wallace Downs, Jesse Freed Sr. We are approached the Minnesota Avenue Merchants Association. They would have stuff. Minnesota Avenue Merchants Association was always in the picture. All had something going. So we said, well, okay, we'll go sit down and talk with the president of the Minnesota Avenue Merchants Association and try to negotiate some meetings where blacks could not work in the stores, could not do anything. So you couldn't eat in the restaurants, you couldn't do anything, but we were gearing on jobs. We approached the man by the name of Vern Smith, head of Adler's. And he said, there's no such thing as a Minnesota Avenue Merchants Association. So if you do it, you got to meet with all of us. So we sent letters. These are the letters that sent. My wife's because she typed every one of them. I'm here again. People say, well, what was I doing? That's what they said in those. See, we said, we don't know. We wish we knew because we were getting our butt kicked pretty fast. But we sent the letters out to people. Now, it's hard to imagine what happened now. Put this in proper time frame. This is 1962. When you go in one of those meetings and say, we demand that you hire some people to clerk in here. Leaders, for example, who had 80% of their trade was African American. And he said, I'm sorry, we can't hire you. So we set up, it says May 5th, start the boycott. And I have the article because it says who the chairman was. Please, I'm not saying I was the chairman because I want to make it very clear, very clear. Let me stop and say, the leaders of the civil rights movement in Kansas during this time was Carl Randolph Sr. and Leela and Hugh Shanks. Those were the leaders. Those were the ones who led this. We said May 10th. The morning that the picketing started, me and Miss Locke, Carl Randolph, we went to the leader and said, have you hired any blacks? And he said, no, we can't find none. Well, they had an attorney who had threatened me the day before, that Friday rather, that if we did, he was going to see that I personally went to jail. And he drove up in his Thunderbird and jumped out of his car and said, pointed his finger at me and called me the N-word and said, and I told you, there was a guy from the packing house came in to pay us. He said, Carl, what's going on? Carl told me, he said, well, I'll take my knife and I'll cut. But anyway, the attorney jumped in his car and took off. And he came back with an individual. Y'all know, some of y'all remember who the first black started working at Leaders. I don't call his name because he's deceased. And he came out and said, they just hired me. We said, well, good. But since y'all made us come up here, we're going to stay out in front of this store all day. And he spent the first full day looking out the window at us. I'm not going to call his name because he deceased probably 2 months ago. A lot of people don't realize how a lot of that happened. J.C. Penney's was one of the first stores. We went into Bob Penney, was a grandson of J.C. Penney. He said, I've been telling these merchants we're going to have to do something because they're going on all over the country. He said, you all don't have to bother me. I'm going to hire one tomorrow if I can find one. If I can find, well, he didn't say what, but I'm going to hire somebody tomorrow. And we said, you don't need to be going to the preachers, telling them to recommend you someone. Take it through the same procedure you do for everybody else because we know people apply. Don't run that game on us. One of the stores did, and so we dealt with that. The night before picketing started, on Thursday night, I'm sorry, that was the branch meeting with the Trinity Avenue Church. The church was full. People came because the picketing was started. People were excited. But no officer from NAACP showed up. Not a single officer. Well, Cecil Williams. Anybody, that name ring a bell to anybody? Cecil Williams was a pastor for Shanks. He was pastor of St. Andrew United Methodist Church in Kansas, Missouri. Cecil Williams left Kansas City and became pastor of Glad Memorial in San Francisco in the Haight-Ashbury district, the church where Maya Angelou belongs. He started CORE. Cecil Williams was a dynamic person. You seen him on television, you probably didn't even recognize him. He's retired now. But Cecil presided because he was on the executive committee. They even sent the minutes to the meeting in a taxi cab. They backed off of it because at the last minute, they put the hammer down on some of the young people who had said, no, we need to do something, and it left us out there. That Monday morning, I was at the post office sending my resignation to the NAACP. And just so happened, it's interesting, I met my cousin, another friend. They said, no, Chester, don't do it. Then Carl Randolph came up. He said, no, Chester, don't do it because we got them right where we want them. You're the chair of the Labor and Interest Committee, and you know they ain't going to fire you. And we got the Northwest District Citizens Association. Matter of fact, he said, I just got information that we're now a new chapter of CORE, Congress of Racial Equality. So we got them right where we want them. Anything happen, they're going to have to pay the bill because it's being done in their name. That was an interesting affair. You can imagine meeting with all these stores. Some of the people have to take off their jobs to sit down and say, just hire somebody. You have to put it in proper time perspective. Dealer Shanks and my wife and myself scheduled all the pickets from 5th of Minnesota to 10th of Minnesota. Can you imagine what job that was? Taylor Bookstore and Moore's Market, which is on 7th Street. Taylor furnished us all of the cardboard that we wanted, and Mr. Moore paid money. So whatever you need, come and talk to us, and they help. Watson and Jill Hall Clean, a lot of people helped. But the majority of people watched us. How many of y'all know that there was a mini riot in Kansas City, Kansas, at 5th and Walker in 1962? Before this, put one had one in Watts.